come in. Okay. Um, there I am. Hold on. I need to change to the all important. There. Now it's official. Now it's official. Hey, look at that. It's actually that's interesting now. It's still like looking like it's cut off a little bit. I'd have to go play with that a little bit more. Well, welcome to Ceox. This is part two of Thursday Night Social. And during Ceox, we kind of just talk about well-being in the marketplace and really about being your best and being your best in the marketplace, which is inclusive of the health, your overall health, just like we were just talking about with Phil. There is down to your soul. And by the way, thank you, Phil. Sorry, I kind of ran out at the end there. A few bottles of water tonight. Anyways, so yeah, well-being. This is Ceox. We kind of change formats a little bit. We get a little bit further away from technology and get into some of the gaming that's going on. Talking about the actual games that we're building and getting ready to build. So we're gonna be talking about that tonight. But tonight's episode is it starts with me. And came up with that title simply because of a big part of our segment normally is to talk about the Buffalo Bills. And my daughter would join us, and she is an avid sports fan. I would like to see if I can get her picture today, and we can kind of say why she's not joining us tonight. She's a little bit tired after having jumped out of a perfectly good airplane. But anyways, we talk about the Buffalo Bills and we look about how they're playing. Our hope was to actually talk about how following a championship team. Our hope at the beginning of the season was that they were going to be heading to the Super Bowl, and right now it kind of looks anything like other than that, right? So, but still, we're not giving up. So, what does that mean? And so tonight's episode, it says it starts with me because I heard an interview with Josh Allen, and of course, everybody's asking, like, what, how, what. And, one of the first things he said was, it starts with me. And I think that that's the important thing is it starts with me. Right. And when we start to think about that, that's a very healthy way of looking at things. Like the only thing you can do to contribute to a better future is to begin contributing to yourself your own better future and start with yourself being your best self. And what does that look like? And that's not always easy to know. And it's important when we start to think like, what do we want? What is our best life? Is that we actually begin to know what or look into what does our best life look at and or look like. And just our earlier episode there with Phil, you can kind of get the idea that hey, it might be quite fun to be partying down in Miami with Busta Rhymes. Like a lot of people may like that. But you heard what was more important, right? Was touching people. And you have it that may not be for everybody, and that's okay, but you have to kind of know what it is that you're building for. And each and every time that it starts with me. And I'm crediting Josh Allen with that tonight. And we are going to be talking a little bit about card games and games tonight, and we'll kind of get into that a little bit. But first, we need to bring on the rest of the Ceoxians. I don't know if I like Ceoxians, but there's a Ceoxian there. I find her to be a very sexy Ceoxian, and I can get away with saying that because that's my wife.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if I like Ceoxian, but what are you doing tonight?
Are you talking to me?
I am, because Tim hasn't joined us yet as Inspector Gadget. So when
I will make
Inspector
my
Gadget
presence
shows up,
known.
you'll know that Tim is there.
So I am, as you know, I'm just recovering after being completely down for the week, being sick. So, but I still wanted to join you and discuss the fun crypto world with you. Because I'm still, even though I was sick, I was still watching tons of videos, YouTube videos about all kinds of things crypto. There's so much to learn in that area. So
There
I
is
liked what you said about Josh Allen, and how he really does try to assume the responsibility of he can't be every player on the team, but he can be the best version of himself. So it's probably what we all should try to do.
Yeah, and I think that that comes into, like, later on we're going to be talking about new roles and rules, and right now it's kind of we're in this kind of season where you have to know your role, right? You've got to start actually knowing the role that you're preparing to bring to market, that kind of thing. And it's being our best in that role, but those roles go beyond just our profession, right? They go beyond just saying I am a visual storyteller, right? And that's like I'm a partner of Udicci. It's more than what we do in the marketplace. It's actually like I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm a brother, I'm a son. It's like it's these other roles that are in our life. Like I'm a church member, right? We have to actually try to be our best in each of our roles. So as a quarterback, like he's got a singular role. So you have to be able to count on that all the other roles believe that they're also going that it's going to start with them, that they're going to be the best in their role, right? That everybody on the team actually trusts and believes because they can see with their own eyes the commitment to being the best in their role. And, in the end, that was something else that Josh said is, you know, we need to be the best we can be. It's simply that. Like but that's a choice, right? We have to make the choice to be the best me that we can
Mhm.
be. Um, and yeah, let's see where it goes from here. I mean, ultimately speaking, like maybe a very talented football team needs to learn something new in order to win.
Or they just need to replace their coaching staff because
Well, that could be it. That could be it too,
they
right?
weren't
Like
their best.
it could simply be that that's the
Yeah,
thing that they need to learn. Like is
yeah,
that they needed a stronger this thing or that.
yeah,
And fair enough. I think that there's some stuff that we could look at in the offensive court. But anyways, that's a whole different thing. Let's
yeah.
jump back to our crypto conversations here. And
Mhm.
what are you finding like particularly interesting this week?
The whole crypto space is very interesting. So I have had to battle myself because I get very intrigued and excited by these brand new projects that I keep reading about, and they're very good at getting you very excited about them. And I do think, there I have a couple that I'm watching and I'm keeping an eye on. But it's very easy to get caught up in the hype of this space because, like I said last week, it's like the wild wild west. It's like the gold rush where you're out and you're on your wagon with your family and you're trying to get out there and you want some gold for yourself and it's just out there for the staking. um so there's a lot of pitfalls and stuff that come with that. But I feel like there's a lot of really good projects that are going to come out of this crypto space. And so as I am learning, because I feel like I'm such a little newbie, um, so much that I have to learn, so much terminology that, sometimes I'm reading, a white page or something like that, and I have to stop and literally go look it up, certain words that I'm like, I've never heard that before. So it's good for me because I feel like it's a good learning experience, and it's really teaching me. Um, to have a good head about investing into this space. And because I want to be cautious. I don't want to be too cautious, but I don't want to be, stupid. So, because you can easily get taken advantage of. Um, but I think there's some really cool projects out there that are coming up, and just like Bitcoin, just like Ethereum, just like Doge, or some of these other coins, Solano. Um, there's a gazillion of them out there, but they've had 10,000 10,000 times return, 100,000 times return, and I know that those are few and far between. And as people become more aware of the space, that they're going to be even less of those. But they're still out there, so it's exciting to kind of read about the projects, see what kind of support they have, and then learn about how they're, what foundations they're on, or what blockchains they're on, and then how to get started in investing with them. So that's what I've been doing.
think it'd be interesting, when we talk about, with Phil that was just on there, we talk about making sure that the human value, right, that the market value is contingent upon the human value. It would be interesting to start to really look at these projects for the way that they're truly improving the human
Mhm.
experience in community, right? And it's like, as opposed to, it's one of the things that we have to be, you and I talked about this, like, a lot of people are investing in crypto as if it's a stock and it's there as an equity, and that's a real problem, but it's being done, and there is opportunity to actually make um, economic value. And I'm always cautious to say, let's say, to make money. People always think in terms of like US dollars. And it's like, well, first off, you got to stop thinking in that way. But fair enough. If you want to look at everything as a dollar unit value, you're going to have to change that. You're going to have to change that. And I'm going to say it again, you're going to have to change that, because it's not the way that things are going to be. It's going to actually be personal valuation. And that personal valuation, actually, there's a whole great, look up domains of value and how it is that individuals actually perceive and create value within themselves. And anyways, there's a whole piece of that, but I think it would be very interesting to take a look at a measure. I know right now on the blockchain, BSV just came out with something that's sort of an environmental measure, right? Because everybody's concerned about the
Mhm.
environmental
Mhm.
impact of Bitcoin. So you basically just kind of put this is the impact, and allow them to compare against one another, and that's where BSV is winning the race, which is why they put that out. Put that kind of that whole thing together. They wanted people to know this is environmentally secure, and you can do proof of work, which is the more secure version versus proof of stake, right? There's all of these things that go on. But when we get into talking about investment, people just sit there and go, whatever he just said is irrelevant. So when we're looking at investment, we were talking about this today, is there is the opportunity to play the wave game inside of any wavy, choppy market, right? Which is values are going up, values are going down, values are going up, values are going down. And if we want to actually do something as dollar values, and look at that in terms of how we currently do, it's like there are literally hundreds of billions of dollars of change in value happening right now, with pretty regular recurrences of about 3 months, sometimes 6 months, is we're seeing the common waves. And the financial markets have always moved in some form of waves. And while we've always been taught that you can never time the market, if you are in the market consistently, and and you're in at the bottom, you're in at the middle, and you take a little haircut at the top, which simply says you take your profits when it's high, then when it goes back down, you get to kind of dollar cost average that all the way out, and you win. And that we can play that game today. But I really want to kind of also point out, because tonight's really supposed to be about the technology, is
Mhm.
that we have to be focusing on the technology if you're truly investing in it long term. If you're
I agree with
just,
that.
yeah,
I agree with that because, that's one of the I think that's one of the things that you really have to look at if you're looking at these different projects. You have to look at the technology, because that's the most important thing, particularly with the newer, like the gaming coins that are out there. I mean, anybody can say that they've got a game, or anybody could say I could go, make my own coin today. But if there's nothing behind it, particularly with the technology, but it's not the only thing. I mean, you got to have good technology, but you also have to have the support. You also have to have the backing. The support is huge, and that's one of the other things that I'm noticing about these coins and how they are launching and the marketing behind it is that they are really, shilling. And I'm guessing they have to have like a gazillion bots out there, just like encouraging people to get behind these coins. But you can
okay,
really kind of
let's talk shilling for a second. What does it mean to shill?
well, my understanding of shilling is just basically promoting.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
so
it's actually one of the things that goes on as you start to get into the early dev groups. When you get into the projects early, one of the first things that happens is you'll get a number of people
Mhm.
who come in literally asking, do you need somebody to shill?
Yeah.
So they get paid oftentimes, in that currency in some
Mhm.
capacity, which, could almost always be flipped for a couple hundred US dollars, right? The equivalent
Mhm.
of it. Because, you get a little bit of promotion about pretty much anything, and even the pet rock can rule the world kind of deal. Right? It's like, so you've got these people who are from other countries who are going on messaging platforms and just talking about all the great things that are going on with this project.
Mhm.
And then it's like, okay, but now go over to their website and read. Does it make sense?
Mhm.
Okay, I can make that make sense. Look at their founders. Do they know what they're talking about?
Exactly.
Look at their
There's a lot of
product.
research you have to go in that has to go into it. You have to research.
Right. There's
And
a
because
lot of research that goes into those.
Mhm.
And I want to say this, you said something very important. You said, "Don't believe the hype." And that just gets me into my public enemy mode and say, "Don't believe the hype. It's a sequel." Okay, don't believe the hype unless it's Udicci. Then believe the hype.
Mhm.
Believe the hype and help hype it. Now, what's really kind of funny is I think if we've done anything really poorly, it's make hype. Should we make hype? How do we make hype?
That's a
Um,
great question. How do you make hype?
You start some momentum. Gotta get a bunch of people watching at once, and then they're sharing it with their friends, and you're asking them to join your YouTube channels. These people that I've been watching, they some of them have grown to like 100,000 subscribers in a year. So that just generally kind of tells you the hype of the market that is crypto right now. You know,
so
people people are
one
just
of
really
the
interested. You gotta I think, get some interest.
So one of the things I don't have it in front of me, but so our 2022 goal is to kind of grow that network, right? And one of the things that we wanted
Mhm.
to do very, very different than others who are there, I think you're gonna have to kind of move to the other side of the screen, so you're kind of floating in a circle, Tim. So you're more like a because you're kind of cut off on Cheyenne,
It doesn't
and I
look
can't
right
Oh,
hear you.
yeah?
because I'll fix it. Hold on.
Yeah, kind of come over like between like you come over, I guess, left on the screen. Um, so one of the things that we really wanted to do different than everybody else was not to tell you about some platform that was going to exist. We actually
Mhm.
wanted you to come onto the platform and help us make the economy, right? So we
Mhm.
didn't want to hype up something that wasn't. We wanted to present what was and allow people to start using it and seeing how it works and
Mhm.
grow from there. So actually we are now beginning to take um our alpha users, and we've starting to work through the little intricacies of moving over our previous users. But Tim, actually, you know what, let me do this real quick. I'm going to see if I can get over here. Yeah, I'm going to have some fun here. All right.
What are you gonna do?
Watch this sort of amazement as I go where nobody has seen before. All right. Are you guys seeing Udicci.us?
Oh yes.
It's very small, but yes.
Hey, wait, what do you mean it's very small?
I can't see it that well, but
Okay, I'm gonna jump over and see what you guys are seeing. Okay, it's not very big. I don't know how to make
You
it
could
bigger.
probably zoom in.
Let's see. Zoom.
it's
How's
better.
that? That better?
Getting there.
More?
You could probably do a little bit more. There you go.
Yeah, that's much better.
Okay. So, although it may not look like much to the world right now, this is everything almost. So, obviously, you kind of get the idea. This is just a little kind of portal thing here that you can have some points in, and you kind of see this. But we're going to start out that here. Now we can begin showing you Udicci us, and we are many, and Udicci is a collection. We're going to be working on all of this, but the fun stuff that's going on right now, and no, you cannot log in. Okay, there. All secure is now our back end. And the back end is where it gets really, really fun, you see, because like obviously we have the same kind of thing that's going on here. Here's what the front looks like. But now I have this thing that allows me to engage. And when I engage, I actually have access to a number of what Udicci calls maps. Okay, we don't specifically call those maps, we call them social solutions, but we speak in terms of maps, which are mediated applications. Those are applications which can go across chain and onto the cloud. So we get to mediate between those. And what do we mean by that? Well, something like a relationships manager is just exactly what it sounds like. You can just simply load up your contacts and manage your contacts inside of there. But it gets so much more fun than those kinds of things, because we can go from profile to profile and like end up on my own, and I get a lot more access to other things, and behind the scenes it's such a fun thing. And there's this whole thing about me, you see, and it all starts with me. That's where we begin, is by creating me profiles for you, where you'll come in and just simply answer a couple simple questions to create your own pseudonymous identity on the BSV blockchain. So just in the same way Satoshi Nakamoto came out as a pseudonym, you get to come out as a pseudonym, and then write to the blockchain your identity, and then you will own that. And how much does that cost you? Well, we haven't priced it yet, but just know out of the gate we're going to give you however much it costs you. So nothing out of your pocket. We'll just be trading in UDCs. Like I said, start to believe the hype, because that's just the beginning. We get into things like a business builder and generation keeper, and we have products and models in many different industries, including the real estate one, as you heard us talk about with Mr. Phil Coleman. Okay, so I am now done with tonight's random. I think that could have been our sponsor break. I think that probably was something like our sponsor break. Let's see if my video source returns. Okay, and could not start video source. Okay.
Something else picked
Well,
it up.
let's see here. Oh, hold on. I think I know what I did wrong. Okay, here we go. Voila! Back. And we're back in the sound. Okay, so I'm going to call that our sponsor break. But I did not talk about our Ceox holiday thing. So we're going to put up that real quick, Tim, so we can kind of mention that to anybody who's watching. We are going to actually allow, I guess, the Ceox holiday chat's going to be a little bit different, because, yeah, it is going to go out. It's just going to be kind of this random conversationally thing, and there are going to be people who are, being brought into the conversation. I have no idea what we're going to be talking about. Probably a bunch of the other projects of the past. I Am Rochester is getting ready to release next year, so we'll probably have some conversation around that. We'll talk about some of the other fun stuff that's going on. Talk about goals for 2022. Realistically though, the holiday chat is really just to stay connected with friends and family in the marketplace, professional connections. As we say, marketplace friends, and really oriented toward like the marketplace friends right now, I guess. But the professional side is growing, and if Mr. Australia is listening right now, I just want to let you know that we still have you in mind, and you could have been here in this segment tonight with us talking about whatever you wanted to talk about. Okay, that's not true. We would be talking about what I wanted to talk about, but you'd be talking about it with me. All right. So, Shani, we're going to talk about, making games. You made this comment earlier, that anybody can make a game. And we've been obviously working on making a game for quite a while. And part of the onboarding process is literally get on board, right? The first thing you have to do is to claim your identity so that you can get on board and begin playing the game. And ours is really just sort of a journey to randomly hidden caches I love that word, CACHE, caches of coins. So we have given many clues where you will find the first cache, but the thing that you first have to do to find this cache is to meet up with Ulysses. And we've given a few clues, and they're around about where you can find Ulysses or where he is these days, or more specifically, where to find the caches. Um, so yeah, we're gonna be, saying when you find those, you'll find something. But anyways, so basically, what does that mean? You're gonna have a story that you can read, and as you go through the story, different parts of the storyline may have rewards in them. Ooh, fun. No, I think that's fun. What do you think?
I think that's fun. I always think it's fun, like, to have to search for treasure. Tim, you're upside down.
Now I got to see if you could, I wonder if you can find something. Oh, hey, one thing. I looked at some of the add-ons for OBS, and there's probably a few that we could play with. And actually, Janice was texting earlier about changing her background. I don't know if you can change your background through VDO right now, and I don't think that that's even possible on VDO.
You can, yes, you can. You can have a virtual green screen, but it's a bandwidth hog, so we don't allow it through our production.
It's a bandwidth hog across
on
all
the
peer-to-peer person.
The peer-to-peer, the connection that we would receive.
Okay. All right, so we may have to look into that a little bit more. But let's kind of go back to this little game thing, right? So we're gonna have people, and yeah, does anybody and see, this is fun because even I am the only one who knows specifically what I am talking about, where the cache will be hidden. I'm happy to give clues, and clues are already abound, but the first thing you must do is find out and catch up with Ulysses. So where can we currently find Ulysses where we've given clues to?
Are you asking me, or are you asking
Tim or Cheyenne knows?
On the Udicci website?
Okay, but okay, you in other words, there is a specific storyline that's people have been directed to.
Is it still locked in your head?
No, it is not. In fact, it is on the cloud.
Oh, good. It's no longer in your head, it's in the cloud's head. Okay.
Yeah. And it'll be converted to the chain. And once it's converted to the chain, like I said, certain bits of the story, certain media bits, certain bits of the story will have cache of coins associated with them. And this is sort of like you're paid to learn or paid to however you want to go through it, right? It's a play to earn or read to earn or whatever it is, but it plays into how will it be able to do the mentorpreneurship, where you're actually depending on what kind of content you complete, and you can kind of get a cache from there. But one of the things that I would like to do to this little game is, because once a few people start to find those little caches of coins, people are going to begin chatting, and it'll be pretty easy to find that first cache of coins, right? And that's okay. I mean, we all kind of learned the first pattern on the, Pac-Man board. It's like, if all right, I got it. I kind of figure out how to play the first piece, and that's fun. And, some of the advanced users are going to go on a little bit further. Advanced players will go on to the next, Miss Pac-Man and board number 16, where they get married, or whatever number that one was. So, there's going to be those harder ones. But what if we could have a little bit more fun and do something like, if you buy a Nefarian NFT, you could actually play it to the board and change the cache locations.
You can play it to the board?
Yeah.
Change the location.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. So the NFTs that you are, that you can own, through Udicci.
So you can do it, or it will do it if
I'm
it's
saying we can
purchased.
allow the Nefarians to do like that's exact. We can give to the Nefarian NFTs functionality like changing where the caches are hidden in the on the platform.
Okay.
So now you just kind of like you play it. So I think like
So
so
is it like a gaming board, or is it just like a story?
oh, it's just a story.
So
But
you read
then
Think
through a
think
story.
think kind of like a Mario type of story, a Super Mario type of story.
So I'm reading the Super Mario story instead of playing it.
No, you're playing it.
So it's like Super
okay,
Mario.
okay,
You
hold
mean
on a
like
second.
the not the racing game, but the
No,
where you bump up the
old
thing and
school. Yeah.
the thing comes out and it's like boo, 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 that
Okay.
whole
Yep.
thing. Yeah.
So
Yes.
All right. Then
okay,
you
so
grow. Yeah. All right.
let's start like so one of the our first meta version, let's call it our first
Mhm.
metaverse version, which I would say we could probably have going. Let's say that for 2023, for 2022, whatever, a year, next year, at the end of next year, I think we should have our most basic version of the metaverse is where you would have a stick figure walking down a road or walking through a simple location
Mhm.
and being able to find caches, right? So that would be the first,
And
like,
who's going
very
to be
simple.
developing the game?
What's that?
Who's developing the game?
Well, the game itself is, oddly enough, much more simple than anybody first had thought of. So that's why we just start with stories, though, right? We start
So
with actual stories because what's the first thing you do when you're trying to develop something? You
Yeah.
storyboard it, right?
Yeah, that's fine. That's fair enough. I'm really curious, like who's going to be developing the actual game.
Well, I couldn't tell you that,
Oh.
but I
well,
can but I can tell you that
so
Tim is able to actually move the character and actually allow the character
yeah.
to find the
Like go do
caches.
stuff. Okay.
Yeah, so I actually went out and because I was bored one afternoon and was out playing on YouTube, and YouTube's a pretty interesting resource when it comes to stuff like this, and found
I
a
know.
really nice short video that demonstrated how to do it in JavaScript and in React, and which is all in everything our platform's coded in, and it legitimately when I understood, when I finally made the connection about how they were creating the boards and associating the characters and moving things,
Mhm.
I was blown away just how simple it was and how we could actually start to allow people to then design their own boards.
Mm.
But yeah, I mean, it's how that ends up looking, who ends up developing it,
It,
don't know.
That's interesting.
It'll be fun to watch it happen one way or
Mhm.
another,
Mhm.
right? I mean, it could literally begin as simple as a hopscotch board, right? And you're literally like one, two, right? And you can kind of jump through something like that. It could be any number of very, very simple things.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, we just begin with the stories, and the stories be available to
Now I have a question. It may be a dumb question, but it's
BSV. Yep, go ahead.
still a question. Um, so is the blockchain, is that an open source
Mhm.
in the sense that I'm familiar with an open source, like,
Like Joomla or WordPress.
yeah, something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
So does the blockchain work that way? Because I mean, how could it
most of them.
be secure, I guess, is my question.
Well, no, that's
If we're
actually one
talking
of the
about
things. So
currency.
this is an interesting thing. One of the most secure, one of the ways of being most secure is to be completely transparent. And it's counterintuitive, right? But we sort of know that true love requires full vulnerability, right? As we enter into Christ, all will be revealed of us, about us, right? And grace has been given to accept that which we did not want to confront, that kind of thing. But the true, most secure environment is one which is completely transparent and available for anybody to see, right? So that's weird to think about, but when you think in terms of open source, what that kind of means is the code has been posted and there's a community of people who can kind of freely enter into it based on whatever rules. But I mean, it's like the rules are pretty much don't try to kill, don't try to kill the code kind of thing. But um, anybody can review the code. Anybody can modify the code and make a different version of it if they'd like to, right? So you have all of these different people who are working on the same sort of code so that if there was something nefarious built into the code, you'd start to find it. So truly transparency is like the most secure, which is why the ledger on Bitcoin is a transparent ledger. It truly is. Every transaction is publicly reviewable. And it's confirmed but through consensus and it's transparent. And because it's transparent, it becomes known as, like they call it, a trustless environment. Like you don't have to trust because it can be confirmed, right? It can be confirmed by the public. So it's very, it's very interesting. It is open source. One thing, interesting conversation, which kind of take this for what it is. At the blockchain meeting yesterday, I was reminded, I think I might have known this, and Tim, you probably knew it, but it's just one of those things that we never talked about. So GitHub is one of the world's like leading place to manage open source and other code, so programs, basically they execute the code and whatnot. And GitHub is owned by Microsoft. So like it was interesting that somebody so I was at the blockchain meeting yesterday and someone's like, well, yeah, I mean, now we've got to be a little bit more cautious about what's going on GitHub, wouldn't we think? Like,
Yeah.
Fair point.
Well, we've always had to be kind of concerned about what was going on GitHub. That's been that's been there for quite a while, and yeah, it's definitely something that as this continues to move forward. Like I get a lot of my stuff from GitHub. I got a lot of the boilerplate code from Huawei for script up on GitHub, and it's all it is boilerplate stuff. So it's not like it's there's a ton of stuff behind it. But I've also found a lot of examples up there that are just absolutely amazing, and it is a really good source for learning as well as tools for using in the platform and development.
No, it is a great. It's a great source. It's just one of those things that will be replaced on the blockchain. You'll actually, a lot of those other, like you're saying, those other little programs that'll be written will actually just then become some form of an NFT, which are then accessible inside of other protocols. So I mean, yeah, it's kind of GitHub on steroids when we go to apply it toward a token economy. So, anyways, that's long answer to, yeah, it's open source. So, and pretty much anybody who wants to look at the code that's currently running can look at the code that's currently running. And then, I mean, when it comes to like a Bitcoin or pretty much most of the blockchains, anyways, it's something like a peer-to-peer connection, and you're basically running a full version of the software on your own computer, right? So you're actually keeping a version of it there that then backs up with all the others. And very, very poor description that I just gave there as far as the technical behind the scenes. But yeah, there's a lot of security in having that kind of publicly available for review.
Udicci is up on GitHub.
Yeah. What's that?
Does BSV have a lot of other projects on it?
BSV is getting a lot of other projects. Are you talking about on what? Just
on the blockchain, on their blockchain.
So they're getting a lot of them. They do have, and they have some like pretty substantial things in the works, and they have like 3 NFT marketplaces, none that are competing like at the OpenSea level yet. And yeah, so they've got like 3 of them. I think they might have 1 now and 2 are launching, or maybe 2 launched and 2 more are launching very shortly. And yeah, so there's for that piece of it, and I believe there's a couple other like DeFi type exchanges on there. Yeah, and there's a bunch of games.
Mhm.
I know that Jake was saying what it was a week ago or 2 weeks ago. They have some sort of like crypto fights. It's this gaming, like you meet on different blockchains and game together, and that was held on BSV. And that's like one of the things that they do. That is to kind of really sit. You're seeing which blockchains can support these things better, right? So while you're actually gaming, you're also
So
burdening the system.
they're gaming different games, right? So whatever games are on the blockchain, not like the game that he normally plays is on a certain blockchain. So we wouldn't, right? So
Yeah,
I
I'm
got
not
that
quite
right?
sure how that works because
Okay.
I mean he the way I read it and the way he expressed it to me is that these crypto fights go and are played on different blockchains. So I'm
Mhm.
not quite sure. My guess is that it's probably just a group of people that go around and play the games on. They just agree to meet each other over there, and therefore, it's a way of promoting a new game. It's a way of earning some new currency, and you start to run in circles with people who want to game and build.
Mhm. Yeah, I think this metaverse is going to be so crazy, so incredible. Not with just, the gaming, but the whole connection piece. Feels like it's going to and for whatever reason I just thought of Olivia, and maybe how she always calls me on Facebook, um and FaceTime, and she's always wanting to get into those little you know AR, or
Right. Yeah.
yeah, those augmented
The augmented
reality
reality. Yeah.
filters. So she's, really, she thinks those are hysterical. So I could really see like meeting her in the metaverse somewhere and just, playing with her. And I think that would be kind of fun. But
Yeah.
Cheyenne, I
That's
got
yeah.
a question for you. If
Hmm.
in a metaverse world, one of the things that we've found with COVID is how this big separation of everybody, and it's caused this emotional. There's a lot of emotion and stress and things that have been experienced because of the separation. Do you think
Hmm.
metaverse allows that to come back in any way, or does that kind of solve any of those problems that we're facing? Do you think that?
I I think I think yes. And just basically with the example I just gave of Olivia, just being able to see her face to face and to interact with her. So not just talk to her, but we're playing games together. We do the filters, we're laughing, so I could definitely see, and this being just another way of socializing.
Yeah,
yeah. And now
go ahead.
it could also get a little bit. This is where people are going to have to get. Every so often, technology brings about a change that's incredibly uncomfortable
Mhm.
in its implications, right? But at the same time, really has something that seemingly is worth holding on to. And what I mean by that is, the example that Cheyenne just gave there of, meeting her granddaughter in the metaverse and playing together, right? I mean, there would be games that they could play together. There would be, they could draw together. They could do art together.
Mhm.
They could be on virtual
We could go slay a dragon
canvases.
together.
Right,
We
you
could
could be
go do all
slaying a
kinds of cool
dragon
stuff. Yeah.
together, right? And all of it's being recorded for like generations.
Hmm.
So now, like, when she grows up and is a grandma, her grandchildren are going to be able to see how she played with grandma.
Yeah, it's really interesting. It's really interesting. And, it's a way of connecting. And at the same time, the concern is that, well, if you're in the metaverse all the time, is there any real contact? And I think the real contact is obviously still the most important. But I think that this is just one more way of contacting and connecting, especially if we continue to go through things like this pandemic that seems to be never ending, and
Yeah.
future pandemics that seem to be on the horizon, because I feel like we're being set up for that. the metaverse is inevitable.
So how do we protect against the bad players in the
Ooh, I have
world
no
like this?
idea. Um,
What do you mean? Like in what way?
Well, there are predators that come that you find everywhere, and I mean, there's obviously we're seeing it in more than ever before. And slavery is a is a real thing right now, and it starts out with these connections online. It's the most free place for them to connect. So how do we build in and incorporate things to protect from that type of stuff without taking
well,
away freedoms and free speech and all the things that we want to bring?
you're talking about like in the metaverse.
Yes.
I don't know. I think that it's still on, like, for underage kids. I still think, in my opinion, is always going to be that parents have the responsibility of making sure that they know what their kids are doing. Um, and I think it's become more aware of the dangers on online, of online predators. And I think you're right that the metaverse is just going to set it up even more to be more dangerous for, particularly the vulnerable children that are going to be in there.
One thing I think that as a society, the answer seems to be something like respect how others want to build community. And as a platform and as an organization, I think what we could do is sort of allow people to define access to their own metaverses, right? So, a family, it's parents come on, and we have our identity established on a blockchain. And because I am married in the physical world, I can confirm that Cheyenne's identity is Cheyenne. Then I could introduce my children, our children to it, our grandchildren to it, and we could begin to kind of set the parameters of the metaverses that can be accessed and the way that they're accessed through this platform. And obviously, at some point in time, those identities can have the ability to go do their own thing. But in some ways, if you allow the family or let's say the community to actually create and moderate itself, um, there are some built-in protections there that you'd like to think could have existed today, but really don't.
So maybe just expanding like the know your customer type
Right.
thing. It's
That's
more
right.
personalized in that it's more, so like know who you're letting into your metaverse, I think is probably how we would best protect ourselves and protect the people that are in it. Now,
Right.
Filtering the audience.
something
Right.
like a
And
Fortnite.
and sort of like we were just talking about with Phil there, the idea of making sure that there's a human value in all that we do. It's the um it's not necessarily just the access, it's actually the economy in that what okay, there's an issue that has on blockchain. There's a real belief that everything is anonymous. And because it's anonymous, crime is going to happen. And the reality is quite the opposite. In fact, if it wasn't for Bitcoin, there's a strong argument that Silk Road would have never been taken down. And in part because of Bitcoin and the way that the transactions are stored and the not anonymity, but the pseudonymity of a person is sort of protected. It sort of is that under a pseudonym, you can be given some trust factors by others. And what I mean by that is with, Cheyenne claiming like, if Cheyenne can confirm that I am who I am, and I can confirm that Cheyenne is who Cheyenne is, as
Mhm.
long as I'm not trying to hide from the world that I am who I am, and she's not trying to hide from the world that she is who she is, those two confirmations actually add weight to, let's say, our vote in a matter because we can actually represent two living people, if you will. I can speak for who is Cheyenne and she can speak for who is Chuck. And a jump off point here is just to kind of bring up something and where this goes. I was in a conversation yesterday at the blockchain meeting. We talked about the idea of refrigerators voting. And people are going to laugh about that. Like, no, refrigerators can't vote, but like, actually, yes, they can. Right. This is the thing. Any technology, anything that has a processor connected to a network could have the ability to impact technological outcomes. Right. And so, do we mean literally refrigerators going out and voting in the US election? No. Do we mean that a refrigerator could be impacting the results that are sent over a network? Yes. Are we trying to be conspiracy theorists? No. We're trying to say that technically speaking, these are the things that we actually have to be thinking about, which is to how are we going to know who a true human is, and how are we going to know like who can we really trust? So there's going to be these trust networks which are going to sort of be built in some ways by saying like this person's added human value to my life, so therefore I confirm that they are the human they say they are, right? And in time you'd be able to actually have that kind of consensus confirmation about who people are. So I think that the question is really important, and I think it's a great question, Tim, is like how do you try to you know make technology safer in a world that seems ever bent on ensuring that debt bondage is a real thing and that slavery remains acceptable amongst humanity. I think in some ways we have to be getting ready to be a little bit more transparent, right? And being honest in our dealings, which I think we largely have been, and not trying to think that we're trying to hide everything from the government, but we're just asking for transparent governance and will participate in that as solid citizens. That
Yeah,
kind
reasonable
of thing.
expectation is not, we have to be able to have reasonable expectation when it comes to certain levels of privacy. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we have HIPAA compliancy for a reason, and that
Mm-hmm.
protects us all. But we don't have that when it comes to social media. In a lot of
Mm-hmm.
ways, we really need that more for social media than we do even our healthcare system.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was just reading Chuck an article yesterday that I had read about what the FBI has access to regarding WhatsApp and like the iMessaging. So it's really kind of scary what
Oh
these
yeah.
big tech companies, the information that they're giving up to the FBI when they use a certain code. Like we want some type of pen. It's a pen something. I can't remember exactly what it is. But when they use that verbiage with these tech companies, the tech companies will give up all of the metadata for anybody, for whoever the target is. They give up the metadata for that person and whoever they're messaging. And if the messages are not encrypted, so if you like back up your messages to a cloud or something and that cloud is not encrypted, then the FBI has access to the actual messages. It's actually insane. And then when they have this particular, it's not even called a warrant, it's just some type of request. They give the FBI this information like every 15 minutes. They're dropping this information to them.
Oh brother.
It's insane.
Actually, that would be it's actually so there's an Office of Foreign Asset Control or something like that's called like OFAC, and it would be actually an interesting conversation to go into what's doing, and maybe we can pick this up next week at this point. But yeah, this OFAC organization actually has a PDF that has like 16,000 pages to it, and it's a listing of names and people to include just wallet addresses of who you cannot legally exchange with from inside the United States.
Oh.
Like, like you're
Really?
supposed to check this 16,000 page PDF to okay, got it. Yeah, right. And it's like, and honestly, how like, come on now,
Well, just like everybody reads a privacy policy nowadays, right?
exactly right,
Well, you
exactly
know
right.
what? I could see doing that. I mean, we had software when I worked at Monroe Community Hospital that had to check certain databases that the federal government required us to check on every person, every employee. So we had to compare our employee list with their Office of Inspector General lists every month.
No, no, fair enough. I mean, it's just more the idea about like, okay, either, again, I don't want to go down a slippery slope here, but so the government wants people to check a PDF file.
You mean just
And
normal everyday citizens, or like people like you guys
parts
who
of
are
the parts of the
creating these?
parts of the new laws, right? Let's say that, like, in the exchange of, because they're mischaracterizing what blockchain is, that some of the implications are that when you exchange, you would have to check against this because you may be exchanging value with people that you cannot legally do that with. And oh, by the way, it includes, you know, crypto at wallet addresses, which is completely meaningless in many instances,
Yeah, I kind of had that
and
feeling
you're
too.
like, right. So yeah, no, anyways. Well,
Hmm.
thank you again, Cheyenne, for coming on. Have you thought of a name for your segment yet?
No, I have not.
Okay.
I will think about it.
All
I,
right.
but all right.
All
Well,
right. We're going to go join the pirates now.
okay. Have
Already
fun.
in action.
See
All
you
right.
later.
Bye, guys.
Bye bye.
See you over there, Tim.